Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Going Ballistic podcast. Man, Jason, I'm glad to have you back.
Oh, I'm glad to be back, man. I always enjoy Tuesday nights, man. My family knows it's ritual. Everybody has to shut up, be quiet for about an hour, and then lock the dogs up and the whole shebang.
Well, last episode was our 50th episode. I had no idea. I would have made it seem like it was more special. So this is episode 51. And for some reason, the past couple of weeks, emails have just spiked like crazy. I'm so glad I have help on board to sort through those things. And you guys are chiming in. I appreciate it. But what happened these last couple of weeks, Jason? What did we talk about that's got people so excited about it? I don't know.
I guess
Same old, right?
Common sense objective to what's going on with the debates of where we should be with gun laws.
Yeah, I think I got people quite a bit upset talking about potential NRA issues and stuff like that. It's been a pretty interesting industry lately. I didn't go to the NRA show. I mentioned that last podcast, and I didn't miss it that much. I mean, I'll be there next time, guys. But it was actually kind of nice to be able to stay home. And I've seen just so much of our industry still turning on each other. I mean, I mentioned that last podcast. There's just a lot of conversation. I'm not saying it's wrong to have. I'm nervous. I have my children's firearm safety book is about to come out. It's all coming together now. And I mean, this thing had meant to have been done last year, but just like every other project, it's just got pushed back. And once I got help on board, I was actually finally able to start throwing projects up on the whiteboard on what I need to be getting done, get knocked out of the way. And yes, I know I need to get the advanced book done, everybody. I get it. I'm trying. But this was just such an easy one to knock out with a few hours, more to make sure the illustrations are right, because it's been written for over 6 months now. And as I'm starting to get it together, I'm even looking at that book, Jason, and going, man, am I going to get like attacked by my own industry if I don't come out strong enough on guns? I don't know.
In this day and age, man, you're gonna upset somebody. I don't care what you do. I mean, seriously.
Right. I know. That's true. That's true. So no matter what, yeah, Tony says compliance course first. You're right, Tony. That actually is. That's my biggest project I'm working on is the compliance course, because that's going to be easier to knock out and finish up than the next book. So these are just the things that are the hanging chads, Tony. Just the book. So I mean, I forget what I've said about it. I'm so busy like you are. We roll into the next podcast and I kind of forget. But I'm trying to hide the books, the gun stuff, kind of towards the end of the book. And I'm putting it right on the cover that it's a firearm safety book. I'm not going to try and fool anyone into buying it, but I'm a little nervous, Jason, because part of my motivation in writing the book is to get non-gun people to buy it too. And that's not for the business side of it. I'm going to be selling this thing for less than $10, which means by the time all said and done, I'm getting maybe $1 per book. So it's not about the money side of it. It's about I kind of think non-gun people or anti-gun people on the extreme end, super pro-gun people on the other end. I'm kind of trying to get some of the people in the middle too. I'm trying to get people that are on the fence. They're like, oh yeah, I like guns, but I don't own any, or I don't know about guns and maybe we should have tougher laws or something. That's not what I'm saying. Anybody, don't quote me on that from the podcast. People saying that kind of thing. I want them to be able to get the book too, because I'm trying to get the message out to parents that just saying the gun is unloaded or that it's hidden isn't good enough. And just because you may not have guns in your home, which is no one on this podcast, but just because these families might not have guns in their home, they never know when their kids are going to get into guns. My daughter got pool safety, hammered at school, and we don't have a pool. But they spent the time to teach everybody, because I never know when she's going to be around water or be around a pool. I think the same thing's true with firearms. So the problem is, yeah, I want it to be a gun safety book. I'm not hiding who I am. I'm not hiding my fervent support for the Second Amendment. But I can't make it a, Timmy the AR-15 talks you through gun safety book. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because, I mean, I guess I could, and that would help our community because they wouldn't be afraid to buy it for their kids. But I want the message on this one to be firearm safety for everybody. And I can't do that with a cartoon AR-15 running around. It's just as an example. And also, I have kids. A lot of you guys have kids. I know what books they like to read. And the other part of that's a little embarrassing is actually, it's kind of corny, Jason. There's a lot of I love yous and it's okay. And because it's a kid's book. And so it's weird going, man, do I want to write this under a pseudonym so people don't know it's me? I don't know, but I'd say 7/8 of the book or more have nothing to do with firearms. And then I just kind of sneak it in at the end and then make the message and wrap it up and end it, because my kids are kind of smart, and I know your kids are too. Even at 4 years old or 3 years old, if you're reading a book that's nothing about pool safety, they're going to let you read it to them once, and they're never going to pick it off their bookshelf again.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's a little sing-songy. It's a little this and that. And I will say I did realize a mistake. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and it goes back to and this is a hard thing to overcome, is does a parent, as a non-gun owner, actually want to learn the other side? I mean, and that's the biggest issue of a debate. Do people want to see the other side of the coin at any given time? No. Most people are stuck in their thoughts, and that's just the way it's going to be. So that's going to be a hard thing to impose on somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. But there's part of the reason I'm so nervous about it is also because there's so many anti-gun campaigns out there about, like, you should ask your friends' parents if they have guns in the home, things like that. And it's like, huge anti-gun campaigns, amazing websites, amazing organizations, amazing groups, all funded by anti-gunners on this campaign. So I believe that not only just the extreme far anti-gunners, but even people that aren't quite sure or maybe mildly anti-gun, I think they're willing to accept the topic of firearm safety. They're willing to accept that they or their children are going to encounter firearms somewhere in their life. So I'm glad that they are. But my scare, Jason, is that I can't have our industry go, listen to this guy. I don't want to sound like them. So Tony came up with another good comment in there. It's a good idea, Ryan, getting non-gunners to want to educate for themselves in gun safety. That's the point. And as long as everyone can remember that, and I'm concerned, not only because those are good concerns I should have, but this is a weird time right now in our industry. And it's like you say the wrong thing, or you kind of seem like you might tip your hand the wrong way. It's like mob mentality. Everyone just piles on everybody. And so it's like, I want to get the message out. And my conviction says I need to appeal to the people that aren't pro-gun, not necessarily anti-guns, but the people that aren't like, I want to go find a gun book. And I just got to get it done in such a way where I can kind of wink to the gun community and go, guys, I'm still with you. I'm not saying anything wrong here. So I'll figure it out.
Yeah. And I think it's awesome, man. It's so important. And like you compared to the pool safety thing that they teach them, or any type of safety. I mean, that's part of raising your kids, man. It's a dangerous world out there. Don't walk out in front of a car. Look both ways before you cross the street. These are all just common things of survival. I mean, and I think it's important because they are out there. And I've been fortunate enough, as my kids were growing up, we always told parents as soon as we met them, hey, just so you know, we have guns in our house.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's locked up. But no, there's some hanging on the wall. If you are uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form, we understand. And even the people that weren't into guns were actually really cool about it.
Yeah.
So I never really had an issue.
Because you're being responsible about it. Yeah. So here's the problem. And I need to reel myself in from being too open on these podcasts from I got a bunch of backlash from last podcast, a bunch of emails.
Oh, did you really?
Oh yeah. A bunch. Yeah. A bunch of people mad at me. Cause I wasn't towing the party line. Whatever. You guys are listening here because you want to hear what Jason and I actually have to think and say. So that's what we're going to give you. So yeah, between just us girls and the thousands of people that listen, I ask now. So I've made the mistake. I've had someone that Jason, and I've had friends that I've had over here that I can go over to their house or hang out with their kids, and I just don't bring it up because I don't want to be that guy. I am extremely safety conscious when it comes to firearms, and I'm actually sometimes not very fun to have at the range for some other people, and they're not fun for me because they decide to flag people or do things that aren't safe. So I'm very conscious about safety, and I know how kids can get hurt with guns. And I now ask. Not every time, but there's sometimes I ask. If I go to someone's house, especially if it's an acquaintance and we're going over to their house and I haven't known them for that long, but our kids kind of know each other, I will find the right way to ask. And you guys can get mad at this if you want. I'm not saying you have to do it. I'll say, hey, just a question real quick. There any unsecured firearms? And they go, what do you mean? I say, just are there any guns that the kids could get to that aren't secured or they aren't in an adult's control? And everyone, of course, goes, oh, no, 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 not at all. And sure enough, I end up walking into a room with them with a beer in my hand later and see a shotgun leaning against the wall. I'm like, what the hell is that? And they answer, oh, don't worry, it's unloaded. Okay. It's never unloaded is an okay answer, especially around kids. And even if that one is unloaded, I don't want them thinking they can pick it up and point it at somebody else and nothing happened, because the next time it's going to be a problem. All right, get ready for the hate mail, guys. But yeah, I've learned my mistake a couple times where I didn't ask, or even when I did ask, I didn't push hard enough and found the answer. Is, guys, when around small kids, I'm talking small kids now, okay? In my opinion, there is no excuse for them to ever be able to lay a finger on a gun without adult supervision. Now, you see my office here? I have guns out. My office is alarmed, secured, and locked separate. This is not my home. My kids don't come here. And I would never let the kids run around in here if I wasn't here, because I have guns out. And in my home, all my guns are secured or they're in my direct control. I mean, what do you think, Jason?
Oh yeah, no, I agree. I mean, and we've always had at least one unsecured gun available in case there was a break-in or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it really comes down to how you teach them. I mean, we were always all over the kids as much as if anything, you don't ever touch a gun. I mean, this is one of those laws in the house where serious repercussions are going to become of you if you do. And we just always pounded it in their heads. And if you go to someone's house and one of your buddies is trying to be cute or trying to be popular and waving one around, you call me, you get out of there. That's how people get hurt.
Oh, yeah.
And it's something that you just constantly repeat. This isn't something that we just said one time and now you guys know it. I mean, this went on for years, to the point where it's almost that you scare it into them.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that, but that's what really, a law is. Either you're too scared to pay the price for it or you're not.
Yeah. I had one person actually say to me one time, kind of half joking back with me, like, well, maybe you should be teaching your kids better firearm safety if you're so worried about unsecured guns in my home. I had to go, I'm not worried about my kids. I'm worried about yours. I don't know how you raise your kids. And they're yeah. I was a kid. I know how cool it was to have a gun around, or you want to show them dad's gun or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. So that's where I'm struggling with this thing. Is I actually had a horrible title for it, and I didn't realize how bad the title was till yesterday. Did I tell you what the title was?
No.
Oh man, I'll share it with you all because it's not going to be the title anymore. This just shows how much I wasn't thinking. But I spent a lot of time yesterday talking with a lot of friends in the industry about the topic and about sharing the text with them and making sure like I can get this vetted by the industry. So did I tell you the premise of the book yet?
Yeah. We talked about it in a podcast.
Right. So it was the whole idea that accidents and minor accidents aren't a problem, and then it gets to the big accident. So I had the book title, Accidents Happen. I was like, oh, because accidents happen. So we need to be as careful as we can so that they're not, deadly accidents, right? And then as I'm talking it through with people, I started realizing I said it out loud. I'm like, a gun safety book called Accidents Happen? What was I thinking? It is not going to be called that, because it makes it seem like, oh yeah, guns, accidents happen. What's the big deal?
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Yeah. So I was like, oh man, I'm glad I spent the day thinking about that one. So the title has definitely been changed.
But it's true though. I mean, accidents do happen. I mean, there was a thing in the news the other day, a guy, an older man, 69 or 70, accidentally killed himself showing off a gun to his wife. So it's not just kids. I mean, people that don't know how to handle guns should take a course, man.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not against you having one.
That's why I think the most important rule of firearm safety is treat it like it's loaded.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's
always.
I get it. That's the other thing too, is I'm big on the rules of firearm safety, but I don't teach the kids that in the book. That was another thing that was weird. I had to go to people and be like, all right, Is everyone cool that I'm literally not teaching the 4 rules of firearm safety that I believe in strongly? And I repeat to people, even if I go to shoot at the range with someone who knows a gun guy, I haven't shot with them before, I'll be that annoying guy to be like, oh, hold on, before we get them out, we're cool, like on rules of gun safety, right? And I'll still repeat them anyway, like just to make sure we don't have, because I want to solve the problem of them pointing the rifle at me before they point the rifle at me.
Oh yeah,
And
sure. I mean, we went over it. Remember when you came out years ago? We took the kids out, and that's the first thing we did. All right.
yeah, yeah. All right,
what
guys, get your head on straight. This is fun, but let's be careful here. Yeah. I think I even added my normal adage at the end of that too, is, and if you shoot me, kill me.
Yep.
I love saying, especially if there's like new people out there, I'm like, all right, so we don't do that, right? We're all good. All right. Now the 5th rule, which I normally don't talk about, is if you're going to shoot me, kill me, because I'm going to start shooting back. So yeah, the book doesn't cover those at all, because I don't think a 3-year-old needs to try and memorize those rules. I think a 3-year-old needs to stay away. So
that's right.
Anyway, we'll see. Maybe it'll be out in the next couple of weeks. So I'm trying to give some shout outs to people on chat, but man, we have so many people going. I appreciate it. I already mentioned Tony. Precision Rifle Network's on again. Thanks, guys. Casey and Wes and Philip and Jay and In the Shape of Human and Aaron and Casey and oh my gosh, Steven. Just tons of people. I can't go through them all. I appreciate you guys joining the chat on YouTube Live and chiming in. I saw a question come in about what about figuring out the energy for hunting bullets. Did you see that one go by, Jason?
I did.
So have you ever heard of the Taylor KO factor?
No, I have not.
All right. I like the Taylor KO factor for figuring out energy required for hunting. Now, that's not the energy of a bullet that you need or the effectiveness of a cartridge to kill an animal. Okay, we all know you could kill an elk with a 22 long rifle if you wanted to. That just doesn't mean that's the most ethical way to do it, or that you're going to have as much energy to guarantee like a good or easy kill. So the Taylor KO factor takes the mass of the bullet times the velocity times the diameter, which gets you to a really big number, and then divides it by 7,000. Now, the reason I like the KO factor, and I'll give you some better examples, the reason I like the KO factor is I know energy favors speed. Okay, so it's energy is mass times velocity squared. So that means a 10% increase in speed gives you more energy, resulting energy in a projectile, than a 10% increase in mass. Because velocity is squared in the calculation. So it's not just double, it's squared the value. Okay. But I know that's true. I can't argue physics. I get it. But I see through experience more result with momentum. I don't know if that makes sense at all, but just the kind of the ass behind the bullet as it hits the target. And that's not the energy. So the energy is why 223 works. Tiny bullet going really fast. You know, it's the equivalent of a BB going really fast or someone lobbing a bowling ball at you. Well, the bowling ball being lobbed at you might have less energy, but it's got some good knockdown power. So momentum is just the mass times velocity. It doesn't square the velocity. So that's kind of why I like the KO factor, is it treats mass and velocity at the same level. So when you just multiply them by each other equally and you're not squaring one of them, an increase in either will give you a greater resulting increase. Well, the other thing the KO factor does is it takes the diameter of the bullet into account, which kind of makes sense, right? We don't want the same energy or even the same momentum out of a long, skinny bullet that might go right through the animal. It might be nicer to have a bigger surface area to the bullet to punch or thump harder. Now, it's not as applicable with modern bullet designs, because there are things that are making things like the 6.5 Creedmoor an incredible hunting round because of advanced bullet design, that a narrower, skinnier bullet is actually able to perform better than it used to. I still don't think it's going to perform better than the equivalent bigger bullet. So you can have, you know, I'm talking same speed, same everything. A 6.5 millimeter bullet to me was a little too small in diameter to do much damage, or the correct amount of damage 20, 30 years ago. But now we've made them to where they expand the right amount and they dump the energy by, you know, expanding either really fast or delayed expansion on thicker skinned animals and things like that. So we can actually get these fine-tuned bullet performance. That doesn't mean, though, that 6.5 is ever going to outperform, in my opinion, a 30 caliber bullet going the same speed and of the same weight. We're making comparisons here. Now, I had to say same speed because usually the bigger bullets tend to go slower, so it's not always a fair comparison. So I still think it's true that even though a smaller diameter bullet can perform better now with modern bullet design, that doesn't mean that the bigger bullet doesn't also perform just as much better. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So you take the KO factor, and I got to Google it. I shouldn't have had to Google this to see the numbers, but there's a good chart that actually just shows animal game. I'll try and get a link to it, and the number that you should get. So, for example, a 30-06 Springfield 170 grain bullet at 2850 feet per second gives you a 20.8 on the Taylor KO factor, where a 30-30 150 grain bullet going 2250 gives you a 14.9. So the reason I like it is it gives you a one variable number, whether you completely agree with it or not. It's a one variable number that you can use to compare. Oh, the 30-06 is a 20.8 and the 30-30 is a 14.9. You don't have to go, yeah, but one's faster, but one's heavier, but one's this way. You can just go back and forth on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find a chart real quick while we're doing it, and see if you don't mind, see if you can find any other questions in it that we can go to. Well, here we go. While you're looking at that, I'm looking up some more Taylor KO scales. A Corbon 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum bullet is a Taylor knockout factor of 47. Okay, so that's going to hit with authority twice as much as that 30-06. But then a 22 long rifle CCI mini mag is a 1.5 Taylor KO factor. So again, it gives you a one variable, to see what's going on with the energy. You have 9mm gold dot is 7.3, 357 Magnum is 10.0, but a short barreled 357 Magnum is 6.8. So it shows how a short barrel 357 actually doesn't perform as well as the 9mm. So it's just a really easy chart to go back and forth on and see what it is. I'm trying to find game comparisons, because you'll see some people will use that to show you should use a certain number for a certain game or not. But again, I wasn't prepared for that question to come up. There's another similar thing, which is I think the hits score or hits factor that Hornady does. Have you heard of that one?
I have not.
All right, it's very similar.
My whole thing's been based on experience. Shoot an animal with this. All right, this is what happened. Need to go a little bigger, or that was too much. I've had that also.
Right.
Where this was just too much bullet for the animal.
Right.
Because it does. I mean, you shoot something too big at a deer and you'll ruin it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Or it'll go right through. And you take, a 338 Lapua and shoot a deer with it, you run the risk of just a hole in one side and hole in the other, and actually less damage than you would expect, because that bullet is expecting to hit something, heavier. So Hornady recommends the following hit scores: small game 500 or less, medium game 500 to 900, large game 900 to 1500, and dangerous game 1501 or more. And they do the calculation different. They have a different formula, but it's just cool because then they can put that one chart out. You got those numbers memorized or figured out. Then you can look at all sorts of things across the scale and see where it's going to fall without having to play that game on up or down on mass or up or down on, velocity or things like that. So 30-06 gets you at about the 1,000 up to a 1,300 range, depending on the load. 308 is the 800 up to about 1,100 range. So that gives you an idea of what goes on there. So I like the Taylor KO, but you can use the hits one too. And either one is a neat way to compare. Now, they're not good for comparing to each other, but they're good for comparing within cartridges if you're using the same thing.
Right.
Cool. So there you go. I hope that answers your question. Which method I like to figure out you should use what for.
I actually have a question for me on Cerakoting. And it asks, do I Scotch Brite the parts before Cerakoting? No, I do not. So in their book, they actually ask, they recommend that you use the aluminum oxide because it's sharper and actually scratches the metal versus round bead, right? So it'll actually stick and bite further. Mm-hmm. But no, Scotch Briting, I think, would take away from all those sharp scratches that you put into it, so the material won't actually bond after you spray it. They recommend two chemicals when it comes to the degreasing part. They say either acetone or simple green. I've not tried simple green. I've used acetone, and I've just used a trough to soak my parts in.
I've heard simple green can be bad for aluminum. Is that true?
I haven't tried it, so I can't honestly say how it would work. But it is interesting, though, when you actually do the outgassing process, how much crap actually creeps back to the surface.
Oh, really?
It's actually pretty cool. So everything will look super clean, and then you'll stick it in the oven and do your outgassing. and you'll actually see little forms of grease or fingerprint or something show back up
Wow.
before you actually do the sandblasting part. Yeah, it's pretty neat. But
So,
so no, I do not. To answer your question, Scotch-Brite the parts, I've stuck strictly to their manual, and it seems to work just fine for me.
all right, man. The questions. I'm glad you guys brought your questions. I said to. Um, wow, you be able to catch up, Jason, on all these?
They're going so fast.
I know it's good. I'm glad you guys are here. How about a going ballistic gun safety poster, aka the 10 Commandments of gun safety? Sure, if you guys want to print it out. I don't know if I want to have a bunch of posters on hand. Maybe like a patch or something. Tony says where to find this chart. Just Google Taylor KO. A lot of people don't like it anymore. I think the Horn of the Hits might be the more popular one. I just am used to doing the KO one. But you just Google it. Wikipedia shows you the formula, and you can find charts for it. You can figure it out on your own. My take on the new NRA president, the denial of Adam Kraut. I don't know. I'm shocked to hear that Adam Kraut didn't get elected. I was hoping he would. I was rooting for him. I am surprised, and I think it's incredible that he's had as much support as he has and still didn't get elected. I'm not sure how that works. As far as the new NRA president, I wasn't there, so I don't know the scuttlebutt on it. I know Pete Brownell, and I think he's a great dude, and I hope everything's good with the relationship them and there. But I have no reason to doubt that Oliver North won't help the NRA.
Look at that. We have another collector on there. How you doing, Todd? Glad to see you're watching.
What's up, Todd? That's awesome, man. Yeah. On a sniper team, do they both people train to do both roles, shooter and spotter? Or do they train for a specific job? Good question, Jay. Typically, they train for both roles, but not at the same time. So typically, a spotter has been a shooter before. So typically, the shooter is the junior person on the team because I think, as I mentioned in the book, you can train a monkey to pull a trigger. I mean, you don't shoot the rifle differently as a shooter. I mean, the mechanics of shooting at 100 yards than you do at 1,000 yards. You still focus on the reticle, you still have a stable position, and you still apply a proper trigger control. So the shooter doesn't even need to know the distance. And I've done that when some people try to argue about whether the shooter or the spotter should be senior. I'll have them shoot a couple different distance targets and not tell the shooter what's going on. Just say, shooter, hold on. See that target over there? See that blue one? Yep, hold on. And I'll adjust their scope, and I'll tell them the wind call, and they shoot and hit it. And I go, aha, we just hit the target, and the shooter had no idea the distance, the wind speed, the wind direction, nothing. Target size, it didn't matter. All the shooter had to do was focus on the reticle and apply proper trigger control. So that's why I believe the spotter is the senior person, so they understand the system better. They also have the much harder job of calling wind, and they have the even harder job still, Jay, of running the team. So when you have someone that's on the gun trying to run the gun, it's hard enough. It allows the spotter to sit there and be able to talk on the radio and look at maps or look at charts and look at whatever they need to do and run the rest of the team while the shooter can be there on the rifle. So James asked, the RPR trigger, ditch it, the Timney is worth it. Oh, someone's asked about the RPR trigger before. I'm not sure. I don't have much experience in RPRs. I've shot a couple of them, but that's it. Let's see. Make a patch, please. That'd be funny.
First lever action. That's a great question. So any suggestion on the first lever action that would be a great all around, something to start with, but also a great rifle over time? Actually, my very first rifle was a pre-64 Winchester 30-30 lever action. I loved that thing as a kid.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Now, as an adult, I never shoot it. But as a kid, it didn't kick hard. I loved it. I have it to this day. I'll probably never get rid of it. It'll pass on to Tucker. I don't know how many actual lever actions are out there and available in different cartridges. I only own two. We have the 30-30 lever action, and we have a 300 Savage.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Tristan just got a lever action 4570 is what he just got. So other than those three guns, I don't know how.
I think I don't know how to answer it either, because they make big boy lever actions now. Yes. They make real big boy caliber lever actions. Yeah. Yeah, they do. So I think they're awesome. They can be cool for a dangerous game rifle, but as far as your all around one, I don't know. I always think a 357 lever action would be awesome. Get a 357 Magnum lever action. Henry makes a good one. And then you could shoot 38s in it. So you can have really soft, you can get like the real soft lead, weak cowboy load 38s, and you could just plink and the gun won't even recoil. It'll be like shooting a 22. But then you could put some heavier full bore, 357 Magnums in there and still take a deer with it, no problem. And then you could also have the revolver to match. I don't know. I always thought that was kind of cool. Maybe that's just growing up in Arizona. I thought it'd be neat to have a handgun and a rifle that shared the same cartridge. What do you think, Jason?
Well, I guess it comes down to what are you going to do with it? If you're going to actually hunt game with it, then no, I wouldn't do the 357. You're not going to get very much range out of it.
Right.
My 30-30 with open sights, 200 yards all day long. I'd have no issues shooting at a deer.
Oh yeah.
So,
it'd be fun to suppress if the action stays closed. You can still cycle it quick.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that'd be kind of cool.
So,
I have a pump action 300 blackout because of that. So a pump action, I'd have it in lever. And honestly, I'd have it in lever action if it was available to do. The problem is, I just think you'd have a hard time with the bullet tips, in a tubular magazine. 300 blackout.
Yeah, they're pretty sharp. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I seriously pump action 300 blackout, and I love it. Just same thing. It can be super quiet. It's not going to malfunction, and I can cycle it as fast as I want to.
So I don't know if I answered your question or if Ryan answered your question. So I guess it boils down to what you're planning to do with it. I guess if you're going to do a plinking gun, yeah, I'd go with a 357 all day long. Or even they have the 9mm ones now, I think.
What?
Yeah, I think there's a 9mm lever. They pretty much have made a lever action for every pistol cartridge to make them kind of go hand in hand.
Right. I think they have 44 Magnum ones too. That one might be kind of cool. But you can get a lot of power out of those. Yeah, I agree with you. Not for like hunting for elk and stuff, but for a carrying around the ranch with you rifle. I don't know. 37 would be kind of cool.
I shot that new Ruger PC9.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Dude, I love that thing. Yeah.
So if you didn't have to have a lever action.
Yeah. And if you're talking like, what if I get into a gunfight? Well, if I get into a gunfight, the one thing I'm never bringing to a gunfight, if a scheduled gunfight, the one thing I'm not bringing is myself. But if you do have to get in one, you're always going to want something bigger. So it's like whenever I get the arguments, I forget all my stories. Someone's like, "Oh, you shouldn't use 223. You need 308." Or you shouldn't use 308. You need 300 Win Mag. I'm like, guys, no matter what you say, I can always name something bigger. You should, in the moment, you're always going to blink your eyes and have like the Matrix style, weapons rack come flying up in front of you and be able to grab whatever you want. But unless you're going to carry around the 50 BMG all the time, you got to make a compromise for what's actually fun to shoot and that you can carry around with you. Aaron asked you, Jason, have you ever thought of doing a 224 Valkyrie for your coyote hunting?
No. I try to keep everything simple and available. Is kind of my motto.
Somebody at the NRA show posted a 224 Valkyrie. They're like, "Hey, look at this 224 Valkyrie rifle they're giving away." And they laid it on the ground and took a picture of it. And it did not do it any justice for the reason I don't like the cartridge. It had just this obnoxiously long AR-15 barrel sticking out the front. I swear that thing must have been 24 inches sitting out of an AR-15. And they're like, "But 224 Valkyrie is the coolest thing ever." I'm like, okay, look at it. It's this. They're like, "Oh, look at the performance you can get out of it." Sure, it's got a monster barrel to be able to get up to those velocities. If you want to do that, great. And on those merits, fine, it does perform, but that doesn't mean it's a fair comparison to any other cartridge that shoots out of a normal length rifle. James asked me if I ever shot
I'm not against it.
Yeah, I'm not against it either. I'm not willing to convert over to it right now. James asked if I ever shot a left-handed gun to keep hand in same place or stay consistent. What about you, Jason? You ever shoot I think what he might be asking is a gun left-handed, but maybe he's saying a left-handed gun. Have you ever done either?
Yes, I have shot a left-handed gun. I didn't shoot really well with it, but I don't think it was so much my hands as an issue. Like we talked before, I was left-eye dominant growing up and right-handed, and my dad made me switch to the appropriate eye when shooting because I used to turn my head all the way over the gun and use my left eye shooting right-handed.
Right.
So my eyes weren't a problem and I shot it fine. Did I shoot it as well as I shoot right-handed? Absolutely not.
Okay. Well, yeah, because you're not used to it. I think I shoot left-handed a lot. I'll just even goofing around shoot left-handed. Was over at my neighbor's house this weekend. They were shooting clay pigeons in the backyard and goofing off and threw the shotgun over to the left side and started shooting left-handed. It's just because I think you get a lot of bad habits in the right hand, and so you throw over to the left hand, and If you're shooting clay targets, it's really great to do when you're having a rough time and you can't figure out what's going on. Throw it over your other shoulder for a couple shots, and it's amazing how it kind of like resyncs my brain to just focus on what matters. But for precision rifle or even for AR-15s or handguns, I shoot offhanded a lot. I think you need to practice that way. And the majority of sniper students I've taught, at some point in the course, I make them shoot left-handed. The majority of them shoot better. So if you actually have them laying down in prone, nice stable position, and they're having trouble with their groups, you have them shoot left-handed, and the groups are either the same or they get a little bit better because they can't have all those bad habits. They have to focus on the fundamentals. So it's actually a good deal. Casey asked you, Jason, where you recommend coyote hunting, and I don't think you're going to tell him because that's where you like to go.
Well, actually, I've not been enough yet to be super successful, so I'm not going to be much help to you. So I've had less successful trips than I've had successful. I've only had a couple successful trips.
Well, it depends on the type of coyote you're talking about. If you're talking about the illegal immigration coyote, the best place would be on the border.
That's right, down in Patagonia or something.
Yeah, yeah.
No, so I've actually tried close around here, and we have so many coyotes. I mean, you can hear them running all night and everything else. And I'm sure a lot of it falls with me. So especially in the desert where I go, where there's rolling hills, the rule that I've been told is if you don't see one within the first 15 to 20 minutes, A, it's already spotted you, or B, it's not there.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
And it's really hard to stay hidden when you're trying to get out in the open like that. I have been more successful up in the brush area or even the forest area, but that's a harder trip for me to make. I want to be successful here in the desert, but I'm sure they're seeing me somehow or another, because when I do see one way out in the distance, I mean, he's already running and he is way over there.
Right.
So I haven't figured that out yet.
Most guys I hear coyote hunting do good when they're doing other hunting, and they just coyote is the opportunity shot, right?
Yeah. But I would love to go to one of the varmint clubs when I have time. That's on one of my lists to do, and actually talk with some people who have done it and know what they're doing. I think that information would be great. So in my experience, I'd love to tell you where to go, but I haven't been successful enough at it yet.
Aaron asks, or he says, yeah, they definitely can be long. He likes the long barrels himself. He's talking about the 224 Valkyrie. Yeah, I get it, Aaron. The barrels are long, and those are maybe cool. You like long barrels. My just problem is the people that are arguing how good the 224 Valkyrie round is, like it's the next best thing, and then it has to have a long barrel. Well, if you already like a long barrel, you can get a heck of a lot more performance out of something else. So if you're going to give me that same length barrel, you know, the 6.5 PRC or any cartridge that you normally wouldn't get because you don't want a bigger gun, right? So you jump up to an AR-10 receiver, you can get a lot more power and velocity and energy and everything else, performance out of a cartridge if you're going to go big. The reason most people don't want to jump up to an AR-10 receiver is they don't want the extra weight or the extra length or a longer barrel. So normally when you're talking about AR platform, people want to get it in about, 18 inches at the most for the barrel, or it becomes unwieldy. So it's like, well, if you're going to go to that length, that's my problem, is they're making the comparison of that length. If you're going to go to that length, 224 Valkyrie is a dud compared to all these other cartridges. They're just comparing the long barrel 224 Valkyrie to a normal barrel 223 is what I see. So, oh well. Jay asked, can your cheek weld position affect the windage adjustment on iron sights? I've noticed most of my rifles have the rear sight adjusted way over in the same direction for 0. Absolutely it can, because wherever you're putting your cheek welds, where your eyeball is going to be. Matter of fact, if you don't set your head up behind the rifle right with a scope, you're not going to see through the scope. That's because your cheek weld matters. And if your scope could be adjusted side to side as easily as your iron sights, and you moved your scope over to where your eye was, then your scope would be not center either. That's why if you have a rifle with iron sights, or actually anything with iron sights, and you can adjust the windage in the front and the rear, I always try to center the rear sight first and then adjust the windage in the front sight. Because at least then, especially on a rifle, my eye is able to get behind the rifle stock and get lined up with that rear sight. I don't care where the barrel's kind of pointed after that, as long as I'm lined up with that rear sight. Whereas some people won't think about that, and they'll leave the front sight stable, and they'll adjust all their windage in the rear, and now they have the rear sight an 1/8 of an inch to the left. That's quite a bit to be moving your head over off the stock to get that. So there's a little free tip for you guys. If the windage is adjustable both, try to center the rear sight. Or in your position, Jay, if your cheek weld's there, move the rear sight to where you like it first. For me, it's the center. For you, it may not be. And then dial the windage into the front sight if possible. That way you can do it. Makes sense.
And
yeah.
on some of those front sights, be careful because you got to use a punch to kind of knock them over.
Yeah, be careful.
So,
use aluminum if you've got it. I keep a couple little
brass,
quarter-inch square aluminum because the aluminum just boogers to all get out, and it doesn't matter because it's nice to move on there. And then once I get them in place, I like to mark them. You ever done that? You ever put little paint pen marks on your sights? Yeah. So you take get your wife or girlfriend's nail polish or your nail polish if you wear nail polish. I won't judge you. And put the tiniest dot right at the edge of where the piece of the sight's moving metal is with the gun. You can do that with your screws too for adjustment. The tiniest dot is all you need, but you want it to cover the gap so that you can tell if one of the pieces moves that the dot or the line won't line up anymore to kind of mark where you're at. Matter of fact, my handguns, if you look at them, they have that. They have little tiny white dots on the sights just because sights can move sometimes. And if I'm having troubles, I want to be able to look down and figure out what happened right away. So Jeff asked me, what's my barrel brand preference for AR-10? I think it's hard to beat JP. JP barrels are amazing. But whatever Barrett's using in their Rec 10, and they won't tell me, is amazing. I just can't wait for them to get that thing out. I was hoping it was going to be out by here, but quality is all you need to worry about when it comes to AR barrels. You'll be fine. And it's not all about the barrel. I mean, it's all about the barrel, but it's not all about the barrel. Get a decent barrel, your gun's going to shoot fine. There are barrels out there that are made by, 80th percentile manufacturers as far as how we rank what the best manufacturers are, that'll outperform a barrel from the #1 manufacturer just because it happened to be a good barrel or was taken care of or you're shooting good ammo, things like that. So don't overanalyze it too much, Jeff. Just get good quality and shoot the snot out of it and realize that your barrel is like tires on a car. Eventually it's going to need replaced and it's going to wear down. So don't also invest everything just in the barrel and then be sad when the barrel's done. It's going to get replaced. That's kind of how I treat my barrels. Is I fully expect to be swapping them out someday.
Yeah. And, like the JP barrel I got, it took me over 50 rounds before I started seeing results with it. I literally had to break it in. Remember we were kind of surprised at that, but don't be surprised when that happens either.
Yeah. It'll smooth out. Red Leg asked, ammo availability aside, what would I go with for long range? 6.5 Creedmoor, 260 Remington, or 260 AI? Ackley improved. I don't have any experience with the 260 Ackley. I mean, on paper, it's probably going to be better. I'd say the 260 Remington. I mean, if I just had a magic wand and free ammo, you get a little bit more case capacity out of it. I kind of like the shape of it a little bit better for feeding in semi-autos. But you're splitting hairs there, man. I wouldn't worry about it. I would just say go with the 6.5 Creedmoor now, which I would not have said a year ago if you go back and listen to podcasts, because it wasn't as ubiquitous as it is now. But 6.5 is everywhere. I mean, military is switching to 6.5 in so many branches and departments. It is, in my opinion, the settled winner of intermediate cartridge size. So just go with it and stop worrying about it. When are we getting you a 6.5, Jason?
Oh, I don't know. Let me finish shooting what I have right now and get more time. And I'm working on getting more time. I'm hopefully soon I'll be able to actually get out and do a little bit more.
Well, dude, I'm so happy you joined us though, with being so busy.
Oh, absolutely, man. I wouldn't miss it. I didn't get to sneak out and do any shooting in the last couple of weeks. I did sneak out and do a little fishing last Saturday night when I got done working on all my stuff. So at least I got to do that for about 4 hours.
Good. Glad for you. I haven't really shot much either. I mean, I guess I did just shoot last weekend a little bit, having some fun. I need to get out more. For those of you guys who have been sending Jackie the emails, she appreciates them. She gets a kick out of everyone shouting out to Jackie. I need to get her out to the range. So maybe we'll get some pictures of the entire company of Kleckner LLC. Me and her out to the range shooting.
Now, we were talking last podcast, you were looking for a pellet rifle, and we got into different kinds of pellet rifles that were out there, and people were going to try to send you some suggestions. Did you settle on one at all?
No, because all the ones I saw that I kind of liked didn't have iron sights. The ones that I saw that had iron sights, I didn't like that much. So I'm like, oh, do I need to get spring, charged, or do I need to get the gas charged ones? Like, I'm not talking the pre-charged pneumatics. I'm talking, the ones that are brake barrel. Like, well, a lot of people are saying the gas cylinders are better, but then some of these really high end ones, and a lot of like the crazy target shooters are saying spring, even though it's old school, they get more consistency out of it, and back and forth. And no, I can't decide. So here, I'll show you what I got instead. You ready, Jason? Got it behind me.
I'm ready. The good old classic Red Ryder.
Yeah, this is actually the little buck model, is what they call it. Doesn't even have like a foregrip area. It's just a tiny little thing. I have some kids that are getting interested in shooting in the backyard. So
that's great.
Had some birthday money left over for one of them on a gift card and went out and saw it on the shelf. They're like $17.
Yeah.
Like 17
all the boys
bucks?
had them growing up.
Oh, I had one of those growing up.
I mean,
except now it's all plastic. I mean, I know this is the little buck model, but the lever is completely plastic. I'm afraid it's going to snap off because it's still hard to cock. But and it doesn't shoot worth the dickens. I mean, it's fun for shooting a pop can 10 yards in front of you, but any further than that, you can actually watch the BBs, curveball through the air.
Turn, yeah.
Yeah. But I've actually been having a lot of fun with it. It's good for the rules. I mean, I had my daughter out actually today reciting the rules of gun safety, and here we go. And it was really fun.
Yeah, I'll tell you, man, when the boys were little, we had them out on a camping trip, and we went for a walk like we were hunting and doing the whole practice thing. And we came across a little bird, and the boys were like, "Hey, can we shoot that bird?" I go, "Yeah." I said, "It's a little sparrow. Let's see how you do." So it wasn't even powerful enough. I mean, the BB hit it and bounced off the bird, and the bird just sat there and looked around. It was hilarious.
So I used to take the dog's food and sprinkle it in the backyard to bait pigeons to come into our backyard down there. And I guess it's still North Phoenix, but not very North Phoenix where I grew up. And my dad built me a little platform in a tree. It wasn't really a tree house. It's kind of like a tree platform. And I used to go sit up there and hide in the mulberry leaves and try to bait pigeons. And yeah, I had that experience. I was even like trying to wait till I could, for a Christmas or birthday present, get like the brass colored BBs, like somehow, or the copper coated ones, like somehow those might be better. Yeah. No, it would like every once in a while I'd down a pigeon every once in a while, but very often.
Oh, Red Ryders are great, man. You'll have a lot of fun with that. We love the Red Ryders. We still have them.
So Aaron asked, "Is the 308 for my NSSF videos my favorite to shoot?" Yeah, probably. I don't have that gun anymore. I actually sold it to a good buddy of mine, if you guys can believe it. I just never really got out that much anymore, and he's getting into shooting, and I still miss it, honestly. I've thought about approaching him and trying to get it back because I liked it so much, but that's a fun gun to shoot. I think a bolt action rifle in an intermediate cartridge, 6.5, 308, something like that, even 223, is just fun. It's really, really fun. It doesn't have to be a race gun. And I have shut more than one naysayer up at the range when I show up with that rifle that looked like it's been drugged behind a truck with a short little 308 barrel on it, next to all these other fancy guns. So it just a decent gun shoots, and it's fun just to have the basics and actually get out there. Red Leg asked, did he get the block of wood with it? Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, he got it just as it was in the videos. I probably should have put that up for auction. People probably wanted that for the videos. I probably could have made more money on it, but no well. So I think we should call it a night, Jason. Are you good?
I'm good.
All right. I appreciate everyone tuning in. The numbers have exploded also. I forgot to tell you, Jason. I think that's why we're getting more emails. I think we're at like 30,000 listeners a month now. So
holy crap.
I know. You guys are spreading the word, and I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. So one, tell people about the podcast if you wanted to listen to it. Two, tell us what we're doing here, because we have no idea what we're doing. Jason and I, every week when we get on, we go, I don't know, man, what are we supposed to talk about? I hear other podcasts. All I do is listen to podcasts all week, and everyone else has like these planned news stories to go through and all these planned topics. And it's part of being busy and part of life going by, and part of, you guys seem to like just Jason and I talking about stuff. So that's kind of what we do. So apologize. So give us feedback, but spread the word. And of course, support my businesses. I'd appreciate it. That's our advertiser for the podcast is me. So go check out Rocket FFL if you're thinking about getting your FFL. Go check out Rocket CCW to get your concealed weapons permit that works in over half the country. And go check out Mayday Safety, because the plan is this month on the 15th, the app is going to be live for free in the App Store. So I hope you guys check that out.
Only
and
for
please
Apple,
spread the word about it. Only for Apple right now. The Pro version, which is what the organizations and schools and everything are going to have, which is the dashboard and everything you sign into, will be available on June 1st. And then shortly after that, the Android version comes out. So I appreciate the support, and please help spread the word about that too, because so many of the contacts and businesses that have reached out that are signing up for it, I'd say the majority, Jason, of businesses that have called, like random businesses calling, are because of someone said they heard it on the podcast. So I appreciate it.
That's awesome.
Yep. So you guys have a great night.
Great. No.
Thank you very much, Jason, for coming on again, and I hope to see you next week.
Oh, I'll be here. You know I will.
All right. Bye, guys.
All right. Take care, everybody.